is a very simple demonstration using a vacuum chamber and a drone, which highlights the absurdity of NASA supposedly flying a drone in Martian conditions millions of miles away, when our mate here can't even fly his drone in near vacuum conditions from a couple of feet away. So let's have a look at his footage first, then look at the charade type of evidence that was submitted by NASA before they supposedly left on this incredible journey through heliocentric space. If you've got headphones on, warning here, turn your volume down a bit because our friend is going to be evacuating the air from the chamber, so we get near vacuum-like conditions. Just a heads up. So let's have a look how our friend's drone here operates in a vacuum.
Okay, drone in a vacuum chamber. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm just gonna let it hover there. About negative 0.5 atmospheres. I'm having to throttle up more and more and more. Negative 0.8 atmospheres. Look, it's full throttle. It can't even get off the ground now.
Yeah, appreciate you doing the experiment. Even in a small chamber, a contained area, rather than the vastness of heliocentric space, still couldn't obtain flight. Now we're going to look at NASA's cunning little demonstration they did in a vacuum. They didn't have the honesty to show what our friend has shown here. They came up with a so-called successful demo where in fact they actually yanked their drone off the stand and held it there. The excuse was to replicate the gravity of Martian-like conditions. But you would have thought, if they were being honest, perhaps they could have done 2 tests. One to successfully show that flight could be achieved in near vacuum or like conditions, and then 2 to simulate so-called Mars-like gravity. But no, we just got the dishonest version, yanking their drone off the stand and then holding it there, rather than display some honesty like our friend did here. So let's check out the NASA so-called successful test. And now we come to this NASA charade, touted as an incredible success, the big thumbs up for the adventure that was to come, which is now going to be gracing our screens very shortly. But as we've just seen, we can't have flight in a vacuum, even in a small contained area. So how is this Martian helicopter going to be flying with incredibly thin air? If they can't replicate it even in their own successful demo, they had to yank their helicopter off the stand. The excuse was replicating Martian style type gravity, which is less than here on Earth, okay, supposedly. Now I wouldn't have minded that if they proved footage of it flying in these conditions without it being yanked off the stand. That would have been scientific. You would have proved it, and then we could have seen it replicated with the tether, replicating the gravity. That way you would have done 2 incredible demonstrations that would back the claims. But as we've seen previously, the chap could even control his drone from a couple of feet away in vacuum-like conditions. But you're expecting us to believe you're controlling a drone on Martian conditions millions of miles away. But the reason you're saying it's possible is this successful demo here, where you yank your prop off the stand, essentially cheating. And it gets pulled up. Come back again. And gets pulled up. Now I would have accepted it being on its lanyard, its tether, for a test to replicate the conditions of Mars and gravity. If it stood right next to a demo of this thing flying in a vacuum-like conditions, proving lift and flight. The NASA buffs, oh, it's got special blades. You couldn't even prove it in your vacuum chamber. You had to have a tether that came under the guise of replicating Martian type gravity. An excuse. If this thing was so scientific, we'd have had 2 demos. One proving flight, and then the other replicating, proving flight and replicating the gravity. The reason NASA didn't show the other demo is because they're dishonest. Why? Because the results do not suit their narrative. As we saw, our friend in the first video couldn't even control or attain flight from a couple of feet away in his vacuum-like conditions. But we're expected to believe these clowns are flying helicopters millions of miles away in similar conditions? Have a word.